let's read another spooky story that was DM'd to us. Last summer in 2024, I started helping out with a local historical foundation that's working to restore an antebellum mansion and locate any unmarked graves on the property. At first, nothing seemed unusual. There were a few cold spots in the house, even in the middle of August, but I assumed it was just the shade from the magnolia trees or the way air moved through the old structure. As time went on, though, I began to notice small things that didn't make much sense. Sometimes I'd hear what sounded like a woman's heels clicking down the hall, or faint laughter from a man somewhere in the house when no one else was around. The experience that stuck with me the most happened in late December of 2024, after we hosted a Christmas festival. I was the last one there, responsible for turning off all the lights and making sure the house was empty. While checking the upstairs rooms, I heard a man laughing, but when I looked around, no one was there. I figured I was just tired, so I headed downstairs, then heard what sounded like heavy boots running down the steps behind me. The footsteps stopped right before the last stair. I stood still for a moment, unsure what to think, then finished locking up as quickly as I could. When I turned to close the door, I noticed a shadow on the first landing of the staircase. It looked like a man, maybe 6 feet tall. I knew the house was empty. There's only one entrance and all other doors are sealed. Later, when I got to my car, I took a photo of the house to send to my mom. When I looked back at it, I noticed what appeared to be 4 faces in the window. The last one especially looked eerily similar to one of the original owners of the mansion. So she sent me pictures. She wants to keep the house anonymous because she does work for it, and they have like people who will come in and vandalize houses and stuff. So we're just keeping her private, okay? But she did send me pictures, and there is absolutely spirits in her picture that she took. This girl is legit. How brave for her to be the last one in this old haunted mansion, all alone locking it up. No, could never be me. That was an awesome story though, and now I think I want to do more research on haunted houses. I think I'm going to do that, so stay tuned.
The creepiest thing happened to us last night, and I need y'all's opinion. My husband had planned a date night last night, and I called him letting him know that I was on my way home to drop off some stuff, and then I will be on my way to go pick up the kids. He said okay, but he said that he had noticed a very large nail in one of our tires. He said he would be driving to Walmart to buy a plug to plug the tire, and then he'd come home. My mom had taken my kids to a birthday party, so I was on my way to the party to pick up my kids. And while I'm there, my husband tells me that on his way to Walmart, he somehow got a razor blade stuck on the same tire where he had already gotten a nail in. He literally said, "It's okay. I'm going to change the tire to the spare tire. We're not going to let this ruin our night. Everything's fine. We're still going to go out tonight." I was like, okay. My mother-in-law was going to watch the kids for us, and I was on my way to her house. And as I'm getting my son down, he is burning up in a fever. I was at this birthday party for a while, and he was literally fine. He was playing, he was eating, he was perfectly fine. But now that I was ready to drop them off for about an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, he was burning up in fever. So I called my husband and I'm like, hey, we're not going nowhere tonight. Something is weird. Our son has a fever. We're not going nowhere. I get home last night and sure enough, he has a fever. This was his temperature last night, and this is the tire in question. Right there is the nail that my husband first got, and that right there is the razor blade. How did this happen? So what was going on? Was there something, someone, was it the universe, something trying to prevent us from going somewhere? Because first it's the nail, then the razor blade. My husband was adamant. He's like, it's okay. Nothing's going to ruin our night. I'll change the tire. Everything's fine. And if you know me, you know that if my children are sick, I'm stopping the world. I'm calling in. I'm not going nowhere. I need to tend to my children. And lo and behold, my son gets a fever out of nowhere. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a coincidence? You think the universe or something was trying to get us not to go anywhere? Let me know what y'all think.
Tonight's True Scary Story is a short one, but a good one. Oh my god, this one freaked me the fuck out. Before I get started though, I do want to remind you to subscribe to my where I tell longer versions of stories and scarier stories. The link is in my link tree in my bio. And tonight I will be telling a story that you have not heard on there yet. And if you want to send me yours for scary story, my email is in my bio. I am looking for crazy stories right now, like stories that you do not think anyone will ever believe. So we're going to call tonight's submitter Kelly because she wanted to remain anonymous, but she will be in the comments seeing everything. If you have any comments or questions for her, drop them there. This all happened when Kelly was 7 or 8 years old. And before this happened, the night before this happened, Kelly felt absolutely nothing. She felt no negative energy, nothing at all. She was completely fine. It was about 8 to 10 p.m. when she fell asleep, and she normally fell asleep pretty fast, and this night she also fell asleep pretty fast. Then she woke up around midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning, and she woke up for absolutely no reason whatsoever. She didn't have to go to the bathroom, she didn't need a drink, nothing. She just woke up out of nowhere. She had a single bed with a very short footboard, and as she's waking up and her eyes are adjusting to like the light in the room, or I guess the dark in the room, she saw something at the end of her bed. She saw this very, very tall, skinny lady standing at the end of her bed. The door was halfway open, so it wasn't completely dark in the room, so she could see this lady, but this lady was completely black. You couldn't see the lady's head, but she could tell that it was there, and she said that it was literally up to the roof. That's how tall this lady was. When all of a sudden the lady starts to slowly crouch down. And the lady starts to sway back and forth as she's crouched down, walking slowly towards her, just swaying back and forth. Oh my God, I would lose my ever-loving mind. Its head was getting closer and closer to her as it was swaying. And although she didn't see any facial features, she let out the loudest scream, like literally a howl. She said she has never screamed like that in her entire life. It lasted for like 7 seconds. It did not stop this thing though, because this thing kept getting closer and closer. So she finally puts her blankets over her head and she's just sitting there in absolute terror. So her dad comes rushing in her room and he's like, "What happened? What happened?" And she couldn't even make out the words. She's just staring at him, wide-eyed with tears pouring down her face. So he tells her to sleep in his bed. So she goes and sleeps in his bed, but for the rest of the night she felt this eerie feeling, like she couldn't even explain it. It was just evil. She said that she just knew something was near her. She just felt it, but she ends up falling back asleep, and the next day everything is okay. A couple months pass by. Now, this entire time she had continued to sleep with her dad because she was so terrified that this was going to happen again that she couldn't even fathom sleeping in her room by herself. And one day she's sitting in her dad's room and her dog is laying on the floor asleep when all of a sudden she sees him wake up and he looks into the closet and he's like staring intently into the closet. The dog starts barking at this point. He is barking and growling at the closet and she is terrified. She looks over at the closet and she doesn't see anything, but she's like, "I have to get my dog out of here and myself." So she grabs her dog and she brings him out of the room. While she's walking out of the room, she has to pass by the closet. When she passes by the closet, she feels a strong wind just gush in her face. She got this horrible feeling like something was in there looking at her, so she brings her dog into the garage where her father is. The dog kept looking at the side of the house from the garage door and he was looking into the hallway and he just kept growling and barking for no reason. Now that hallway was down by where her dad's room was, so the dog was growling and barking at her dad's room still. She still to this day thinks that her dog saw the same thing that she saw, and it absolutely terrifies her. And she to this day is still terrified of what happened to her. And I would be too. That is effing terrifying. When I read that, I was like, holy, I don't know what I would do. I had a sleep paralysis incident that was very similar to that, but it was sleep paralysis. I wasn't awake. I would freaking lose it. What do you guys think this was? Like, what do you think that was? And she didn't see its face, like how tall that was and how like it must have, how weird it must have looked bent over because of how tall it was. I can't even like think about it right now. But what do you guys think it was? Do you think it was a demon? Do you think that it was just like a bad ghost? Like, is that such a thing as bad ghost? She said she would love some answers, and so would I. Quite frankly. Has anyone else ever seen anything like that? Drop it in the comments because, oh my God. I'm going to do my shout out. My first shout out is going to Jackie Reyes. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you so much for being so kind. You are so sweet and like commenting all the time and just being supportive. That means absolutely everything to me. I love you for that. And then my second one is Lisa Hartwig. Thank you so much for being so supportive and sweet also. Like, I love you, girl. Like, you always say it back and I just think that's so sweet. All of you guys are so amazing. Genuinely, I love you all so much. You know this, but I will never stop saying it. My name is Kaisa and I tell true scary stories that you guys submit to me on here every single night. So if you like that, hit that follow button and keep sending me your scary stories, you guys. I need scary, scary stories. So I need you to do 2 things for me. And what are those? Have a safe night and what? Have a spooky night. Love you guys. Be safe. See you in the next one.
Snapchat memories just reminded me that one of the scariest ghost encounters I've ever had happened a year ago today. My boyfriend works at the college campus here, and this particular night he happened to be in the oldest building on campus that was built in 1899. He had finished his tasks, we were on FaceTime, he went up to the second floor after turning off all of the lights and closing all of the office doors to chill until his shift was over. He's sitting in a classroom when he hears someone walking down the hallway, so he goes out to investigate to make sure nobody broke into the building. And of course, there's no one there. He keeps hearing it. He hears it for 30 minutes straight, and I'm having a normal conversation with him, and he's just staring at the hallway because it does not stop. About 30 minutes in, I hear what he's hearing, and it sounds like heavy boots marching down the hallway. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, why are you not more scared? So as he's sitting there staring at the hallway, tears start running down his face. And he's like, I'm not crying. I don't know what is wrong with me, but tears are just falling. I have had 2 ghost encounters where that has happened to me. It's just the fear and like the evil energy that just makes your body react that way. If you know, you know. It's crazy. So I'm like, okay, you need to go wait in your truck for the rest of your shift. He goes into the hallway. Every single light in the building is on, and he had just turned all of them off. And the office door that he had came from is open after he just closed it. You need to get out of there. So he walks by the light panel at the top of the stairs, turns all the lights off again, and walks down the first flight of stairs. When he gets to the bottom of the first flight, all of the lights go back on. The TV is going off and on, okay? I'm like, just leave the lights. Like, you need to get out of there. And he's like, no, I'm going to get in trouble. And I'm like, they keep turning back on. There's nothing you can do. So at this point, he's like talking about how scared he is. And he gets to the top of the other set of stairs and he's like, I can't move. At this point, I am praying out loud, being like, we belong to Jesus. We mean no harm. We are safe. We are protected. And everything that Kevin is telling me, I'm just praying over him. Like nonstop, no gaps. I'm not responding to anything he's saying. So then he starts panicking because his legs won't move. So I'm like still praying with all my heart. And he's like, and of course I'm freaking out, but I do not stop praying. I do not break that prayer. So then finally he's able to go down the stairs. He literally runs out of the building and he turns around and looks at it and shows me on camera every single light, all 3 floors are turned on, including the basement. So I'm like, I don't know, just tell your boss that you shut off the lights multiple times and they keep going back on. So he gets to his truck and he shows me his arms and legs and he has like permanent goosebumps for hours. I have never seen him that scared, and he's a person that doesn't really believe in this stuff that much. Like, we saw a ghost in his permanent building like 6 months prior, and we weren't scared at all. We were in the basement of his regular building, and this ghost just like walked by us and then like ran away. And we were both just like, haha, that was crazy. But the evil presence that I could feel through the FaceTime screen was one of the scariest things I have ever encountered.
Guys, this story that I came across is absolutely terrifying. So a number of years ago, a woman was laying down in her bed trying to get some sleep. And just as she was about to fall asleep, her cat started to scratch at the bedroom door to be let out. So despite being super tired, she shuffled out of bed and she went over to the door. And then the cat turned and led her over to the side door to be let outside. She opens the door, slides the screen door open, and the cat runs out. So just as she's about to close the door, she looks across the way towards the neighbor's house and she sees her dad's truck sitting there in the driveway. And then there, standing on the other side of the truck by the hood, she sees a strange figure. She said she could only see it from the shoulders up. She said that its head was larger than its body. It had a small, thin neck and super bony shoulders. It had 2 large, empty eye sockets where eyes should be, but weren't. They were pitch black, almost like a void against light pale skin. And then the most terrifying part of all, she said she will never forget the details of this thing's face. She said the upper face, kind of where the eye sockets were, seemed to be a pale skin. But as it would go down towards the jaw, it's like the skin was shredded. She said where the jaw was located was complete bone, and it had this wide, toothy, skeletal smile. The texture of its skin, the wrinkles, all the details of the shredded flesh. She was frozen in fear, and this thing just stood there, staring at her. She is absolutely terrified. She slams the door shut and locks it. She's breathing so heavy, and she keeps telling herself, this cannot be real. What the heck did I just see? She said she ran into her bedroom, pulled the covers up over her head like a child, and just laid there, terrified. She said she had flashbacks to back when she was a child, and she used to have night terrors, just to how helpless and terrified that she used to feel, all flooding back in. And then things got even more terrifying. She said as she laid there under the blankets, she started to hear a scratching sound like it was inside her bedroom, along the wall that was where the creature was, the direction the creature was in. And it sounded like someone was dragging a nail slowly across her bumpy bedroom wall from the inside. She said the click, click over every bump on that wall just made her grow more and more terrified. She started to cry, and she just was trying to tell herself that this was not happening. She wondered if this thing got enjoyment out of the fear that was coming out of her. She just lay there until the sound stopped, and eventually everything went totally quiet. She said the next day she went and looked out in that direction just to see if there was anything around the area that could have been mistaken for what she thinks she saw. She said there was absolutely nothing there that could have looked like what she saw that night. She also mentioned that the cat that she had let out had returned and was okay. I swear, once you think you've heard it all, another new creature comes out of nowhere. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you have your own creepy story time, please submit it to the email in my bio. I would love to share it anonymously or otherwise.
Let's read some more scary stories that were sent to us. This happened to me and my friend 2 years ago at my birthday party. It was 10 o'clock at night when me and my friend started hearing footsteps coming from downstairs. Reminder, it was late at night and no one was downstairs, so we thought nothing of it and just started fooling around. Then, all of a sudden, we heard someone running. That's when we knew something was off. We looked in the hallway and there was nothing there, so we closed the door and decided to hide under the covers. We were really scared but decided to come out from under the covers. Then all of a sudden the power went out. Now we could hear running again, but this time it was coming from the attic. We were both terrified, but then it just stopped, or so we thought. That's when we started hearing something clawing at my bedroom door. We never had a sleepover at my house again, but I still hear things like something is here with me. This happened to me just the other day. Me, my cousin, and my brother all went swimming around 8 o'clock at night. It was already very dark outside because of the time change. So, we are swimming in the pool when all of a sudden my cousin starts screaming that someone touched her. That's when I looked over my shoulder and saw this huge, tall, slim, black figure standing there. We ran inside and I was so out of breath and had a horrible feeling. Then all of a sudden, I felt like something was choking me, but there was nothing there. Slender Man? I don't know. A few years ago, my little brother passed away. My family and I were sitting in the living room, and on the shelf beside us there was a candle. Out of nowhere, the candle started rattling and moving around. We looked to see if anything could have been vibrating it, but there was nothing. I think it was some sort of communication from my brother. That's one of those sweet, sad ones, and I definitely think that it was your brother communicating with y'all.
Can we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
There was a man who loved to eat. Every day he went home at noon to eat lunch with his wife. The man was not a good husband. He was mean, bad-tempered, and he was an overbearing bully, and his wife was afraid of him. She was a shy, timid woman who did everything that he asked. If she didn't, he would often beat her. One day, on his way home from lunch, the man stopped at the butcher shop and bought a pound of liver. He gave it to his wife and told her to cook it for dinner that night. His wife had prepared pasta for lunch, so he sat down to eat. While the man ate his lunch, his wife told him that a rich old woman in town had died and her body had been brought to the church next door. The man wasn't interested in what she had to say. He was enjoying his plate of ravioli, which he washed down with a nice glass of wine. He didn't want to stop eating long enough to tell her to shut up. Finally, he said, "Enough, I've got to go back to work." That evening, the wife began preparing the dinner. She seasoned the liver and cooked it slowly in a pot with vegetables and broth. After a while, she lifted the lid, and the liver looked like it was done. So she cut off a small piece and popped it into her mouth. It was just delicious. The flavours were rich and vibrant. She thought it was the best meal she'd ever made. So she tasted another piece, and another, and another. It was so good she couldn't stop herself, and before she knew it, the pot was empty. Then she thought of her husband, and she began to panic. He'd be coming home soon. What would he do when he found out that she'd eaten all the liver? He wasn't the type of man who'd understand. He'd be very angry. And she remembered the beatings that he'd given her before. She didn't want to face that again. But where could she get another piece of liver that late in the day? Then she remembered.
She has a liver.
The rich old woman who was lying alone in the church next door.
Oh, God.
Lying in an open coffin, waiting to be buried. After finishing his meal, her husband got up from the table, patted his belly and said, "That was just delicious." He'd never had a better dinner. The salad with a drizzle of olive oil and just the right amount of garlic and vinegar, the fresh garlic bread, and the tastiest, most tender liver that almost melted in his mouth. He looked at his wife. "Aren't you going to have some?" he asked. "Oh, I'm not hungry," she said. "You finish it." That night, I went to bed. The man had fallen asleep, but the wife was lying in the darkness, unable to close her eyes. All she could think about was what she had done, and just then, she heard a voice in the distance. "My liver!" The wife listened. Was it just her imagination? Was she dreaming? The cry came again and again, piercing and terrible. "Give me back my liver! Give me back my liver!" No, I don't have it. I don't have your liver. Now the voice was right next to her. "Who has my liver? Who has my..." The wife was trembling with fear. She pointed to her husband and said, "He does." Suddenly, the wife awoke in a cold sweat. Gosh, she was so frightened she could barely breathe. She couldn't stand the strain any longer. She shook her husband, and when he woke up, she confessed everything. She told him how she'd eaten the liver that he'd bought, how she'd crept into the church next door, she'd slit open the belly of the corpse and deftly cut out the liver and brought it home to cook. Her description was so vivid, her husband could almost see it happening before his eyes. As he listened, he grew more and more angry. Then she told him about the ghostly voice that she'd heard, and he grew more and more fearful. The man was terrified of ghosts. "I'm the one who ate the liver," he said. "That means she'll be coming to me for her vengeance." He got out of bed, and without a word, he went downstairs. His wife sat in bed wondering what he was going to do. A few minutes later, she heard his footsteps coming up the stairs, and when he appeared in the doorway, she saw he was holding a knife.
Oh, Jesus.
She screamed and screamed. Later that night, the husband crept into the church next door. He approached the coffin and placed a fresh, new liver in the belly of the corpse. Then he went home, climbed into bed, and his sleep was never disturbed again.
Let's read another scary story that was DM'd to us. I grew up in Hungary in the outer districts of Budapest, about an hour away from the city center. For context, my childhood didn't happen in a busy neighborhood or a modern apartment. Instead, I was raised in this old family house that originally belonged to my grandmother. The place was at least 100 years old, and it stood on a huge piece of land. The house itself was built like a long row of 4 connected units, almost like a tiny forgotten terrace. Many people used to live there decades ago, but when my dad inherited it, he bought the others out. We lived in the first unit, and he kept the other 3 locked. And when I say locked, I mean truly locked. No electricity, no water, just darkness and an unbelievable coldness that never left those rooms. Really, even if it was summer, the temperature was negative in there. Inside one of those units, it felt like entering another century. There were old family photos from the previous neighbors, almost 100 years old, scattered around the room. The air was so freezing that I felt it straight in my bones, like I could see my breath. I'm not even kidding. Even back then, I felt something strange about that place, as if it was holding onto memories that didn't belong to us. But the moment I will never forget happened one summer evening. My sister and I were outside in the garden playing volleyball. It was getting dark, and at one point we accidentally hit the ball toward one of the windows of the locked house. I ran to pick it up, and when I got close to that window, I swear I saw someone looking at me. Not just looking, but smiling. It was standing there in the darkness behind the glass, staring straight into my eyes with this faint, unsettling smile. I saw a man's face, but it was blurry because the window was so dirty. I saw his eyes, and I saw how his eyes were shaped, like he was smiling. That's why I know I didn't hallucinate it. I felt that sudden shock, like my whole body froze. I screamed, and my sister and I ran inside our house and told our dad that someone was in one of the locked houses. He immediately took his keys and walked in with us, but inside there was nothing. No footsteps, no sound, only that unbelievable cold, the kind that feels almost unnatural. Still, I can see it so clearly in my memory, that figure in the window, the darkness behind them, and that smile as they held eye contact with me. Later, we moved to the city center, and the house is still standing today, but I've never gone back inside those locked rooms. Even thinking about it sends a chill down my spine. I never really believed in ghosts, but growing up in a place like that, an old, isolated row house taught me that there might be things in this world we can't fully explain. Oh, that is creepy! I live in Texas, and I don't know why, but whenever I read stories that happen in like different countries, it's just almost scarier. But I'm really glad that this person no longer lives in that house. And I hope nobody ever does again. Maybe they should just be torn down.
Story time, because I really cannot stop thinking about this. So stay tuned and listen throughout the story. Just listen. So tell me, what would you do in the situation? Because again, I just cannot stop thinking about it. Okay, so bam. So a few nights ago, I ordered something from food delivery. You know, I'm not gonna say their name. Just keep it at a minimum. You know, it was good. Nothing was going on. Like, I honestly just wanted a Coke and some fries. That's it. So yeah, nothing weird, right? So I'm home alone. You know, I'm waiting on the driver. They said they're 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there. So again, I'm just waiting. And, you know, and boom, finally the driver says, I'm leaving the order at the door. So you know me, I get up, go get the order, thinking nothing's, you know, you got it. But tell me why when I opened the door, it was no food there. Instead, there was an envelope sitting on my doorstep. Y'all, so me being confused, I picked it up, I go back inside and I opened it. Y'all, tell me why somebody wrote on an envelope, do not eat it, throw it away. Y'all, so I ain't even gonna lie, at this point, I'm literally bricks. My heart is sank. I'm literally nervous, like, what's going on? Yeah, so that's when I opened the app, and tell me why the delivery driver's profile is gone. When I say it's gone like it was not existing at all. Like, what? So at this point, I'm in my house, I'm scared, I'm confused, I don't know what's going on because like I'm losing my mind. Like, the profile was just there. You told me that you were delivering my food. Like, what? If you thought I answered, you crazy. Good thing I had a peephole on my door, because if you didn't think that I was gonna look out of it, I definitely did. Yeah, why this envelope said, you're welcome. Like, was somebody trying to warn me, or am I overthinking? What would you do in this situation? Y'all let me know, because am I tripping? I don't know. Y'all let me know.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Let's read another scary story that was sent to us. This one's kind of long, so get comfy. I've lived in my house for 4 or 5 years, and ever since I can remember, there has always been something off. For context, I've always been a sensitive person when it comes to ghosts or anything creepy. I get a bad feeling, and it feels like I have the stomach virus mixed with the flu. My throat closes and my stomach twists, and I know there is something around. I first noticed things happening around last year when I was laying in my bed during the weekend around 3 a.m. I heard footsteps and creaking, and I just thought it was my brother, so I got up and went to check, and there was no one there. So I went downstairs, and the whole time I was walking, I had that sick feeling. When I got downstairs, I found my brother passed out on the couch, so I went back to my room, and I could not sleep. I had that sick feeling all night. More things like this have happened ever since that night, like whispering while I'm upstairs when no one is up there, or I'll hear my mom call my name when she's not home. I've heard of mimics before, and I thought for a while maybe that's what it was. Things like this have also happened when I've had friends over. My friend was at my house and I had changed all of the lights upstairs because some had went out. While she was over, 2 lights stopped working, and every time I went in there they would work again. But when she did it, they would flicker and stop working, as if something were upset. The next day, my friend and I went outside to swim, and we brought a speaker. We set the speaker on the porch and started listening to music. After a while, we realized we could no longer hear the music, thinking the speaker just disconnected. The speaker then started playing again, but it was creepy, weird noises. We went inside and put it away, and when my mom got home, we told her what had happened. She said maybe it was broken, but ever since my friend left, it's been working perfectly fine. I still deal with weird feelings and noises every time I'm home alone, and sometimes it gets a little too quiet. Okay, that story is so creepy, and the main reason that she sent it to me is because she is looking for advice. So if anyone who is like educated in the spirit world and ghosts and stuff like that, maybe like a medium or something, if somebody maybe could like comment down below what they think this might be in her home, she would really appreciate that. I think the only way for her to like get these creepy things to stop is if she can figure out exactly what it is. But some advice would be greatly appreciated, and I hope this stuff stops soon because that is so freaking creepy. I couldn't imagine